everybody, this is Taylor from the Cohen Group Northwest and Live Bellingham Now. And today I am so excited because I have brought into the studio a very, very special guest. We have Kait Whiteside. She is from Max Higbee Center right here in Bellingham. And today we're going to be sitting down with her to talk about who Max Higbee is, what they do, and why they are such a vital element here in our community. So Kait, welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So can you tell me a little bit about the history of Max Higbee? How did Max Higbee become to be here in Bellingham?
Yeah, so Max Higbee Center was a grassroots effort back in the 80s, and a whole bunch of family members, people with developmental disabilities, teachers, and Max Higbee came together and did a needs assessment and realized that there were a bunch of needs for social and recreation programs for people with developmental disabilities. And so they created what was called the Drop-In Center. And eventually that was renamed in honor of Max Higbee, our founder, after he passed away.
I love that. So is that what you would say your mission is to, provide that community for people here in Bellingham?
Yeah, yep. Our mission is to provide community-based recreation programs for teens and adults with developmental disabilities and provide opportunities for friendships, for joy and enrichment, for health and growth, and for community access. And I'll back up a little bit more on the history. So Max Higbee, he was a professor at Western Washington University, and he was really instrumental in passing Washington state law that required free and appropriate education for students with developmental disabilities in the schools. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And before that piece of legislation, schools didn't have to necessarily accommodate students with disabilities. And so a lot of parents, had to figure out how to educate and support their kids with disabilities. And so Max Higbee worked to pass that law, and that Washington state law was later a model for federal law. So it really put Washington on the map for inclusion and put Bellingham on the map for inclusion and for really being a leader in inclusion for people with developmental disabilities. So that was his background and kind of the foundation in our community here in Bellingham. And it didn't stop there. Max Higbee and the community recognized that, to have a full and meaningful life, you need all kinds of opportunities, educational opportunities, social opportunities, and recreational opportunities. And so he was also very instrumental and inspirational in that effort as well.
That's pretty, I had no idea about the, Washington to federal law. I mean, that makes an impact for a lot of families, like everywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
So you talked about recreational programs. Can you share a little bit about what those programs are, what they look like on a day-to-day?
Yeah, yep. So our programs, they're really about connection, about creating opportunities for connection with peers, with friends, with building relationships in the community. So our programs right now, they're a little bit different in COVID, but right now they look like members coming to Max Higbee Center here at our facility at State Street, often choosing an activity of their choice here at the center, or choosing to do like the planned activity, whether it's, going out for a walk or going to the YMCA or going to Vital to do some climbing. So we have all kinds of options built into each day, and folks really get to choose and self-direct what their participation looks like. And that's because that's such an important component of recreation is choice. And, we recreate because we want to. So that's a very important element in all of our programs, is that choice-based programming. And then a lot of our program activities are built around like lifelong learning and exploration and curiosity. Our staff are really wonderful at providing support for people to participate and meeting people where they're at, and really letting our members self-direct what their participation looks like that day. And so lifelong learning, a lot of our activities incorporate like activity so that folks can stay active and healthy. Like we do a monthly Movement Matters dance class, and it's really it's focused around, joyful movement and dancing and sharing that with friends. So that's a few of the examples of what our program activities look like.
No, I love that, because you definitely get a variety of different projects and things that, pretty much anybody with any interest would be involved in. So I love that. And you mentioned, your staff being really great at being able to meet the needs of everybody depending on what they want to do that day. So, what does a typical day for you and your staff look like? And how does your role as executive director fit into that?
Sure. So a typical day, I would say like 3 or 4 staff are here at the facility at 9:30 a.m. Or no, they're here earlier than that. They're here at like 8:30 a.m. waiting for people to show up to our morning program. And some of our members get dropped off by parents. Some members walk here independently. Others take specialized WTA, the door-to-door service. So they arrive by the specialized bus. And so there's this period in the morning where everybody's just hanging out and waiting for their friends to arrive, greeting everyone. That's such an important part of the day, is like that greeting and that welcoming spirit of Max Higbee Center, where you're like, hey, Kate, it's so good to see you. And just making sure that every single person who walks through our door is welcome and supported for the day. So there's that period where everyone's waiting, hanging out and having some downtime together, getting to chat and catch up. And then once everyone arrives, folks either get to choose the planned activity that day. It might be like an art class. It might be going, out into the community for an outing, or they can choose to do something else of their choice. We have all kinds of games and activities here at the center. So there's just, again, a lot of choice so that people can do whatever they feel like that day and engage in however they're feeling comfortable or inspired to do so that day. So that's like our morning group program. And then at the same time, we have other staff members leading our one-on-one program, our recreation mentor program, where we pair one staff member with one member to create really individualized support and to support members in achieving personal goals that they might not be able to in our group program. So we kind of have staff dispersed out in the community working one-on-one. And I really like those two options where people can participate in a group or they can participate one-on-one. If you think about recreation, like sometimes I enjoy doing that with a whole bunch of friends. I'm also an introvert. So sometimes I just want to do what I want to do and like go out for a walk by myself. And so it's really nice to be able to provide that opportunity to our members with some additional support to do, individualized or more independent recreational activities with a little bit of additional support in whatever way that may need to be that day. So those are our two programs that are running kind of throughout the day. We have a morning group program and we have an afternoon group program. And then we have those one-on-one recreation mentor programs throughout the day and throughout the community. And then during COVID, another addition to our programming has been virtual programs. So we hold virtual programs every day where people can hop onto Zoom, and we have a staff member leading some kind of activity on Zoom. And sometimes it's just, chats over coffee, or it could be a dance class, or a yoga class, or a cooking class. We've gotten really creative with our virtual programming. So that's what a day looks like. Yeah. My role throughout the day just really changes each day, each week. And I'm kind of doing things behind the scenes. So I'm not as involved in programs, but I'm doing a lot of things behind the scenes just to, keep our organization healthy and strong.
Yeah, keep the wheels moving so that things can
I
love that. And you mentioned the new space. So how are you guys liking the new space? You're right there on State Street. Like everybody sees it. I see it every time I drive down.
Oh my gosh, the new space is just fabulous. We are so happy in our new home here at State Street. It's 3 times the size of our former facility. So it's giant in comparison to our former location on Bay Street, which has really opened up the doors for different activities, for more diverse and vibrant activities. There's more movement. Exactly. People aren't like crammed in shoulder to shoulder, which thank goodness, because during COVID, we've had to really create a lot of distancing in our programs, and our space certainly allows for that. So that's really fabulous. And we have 2 different activity rooms, so we can have one activity running in our main recreation room and then another activity running in our quieter workshop room. So it's really lovely to have those options available to us right now. And the location, like you said, right downtown Bellingham, we feel so fortunate to just be in the heart of downtown and have access to so many wonderful businesses and organizations. And we're 1 block from the bus station. So for folks, if they're taking the bus, it's a really easy route to get to Max Higbee Center right now, which is wonderful. It's been a game changer for access and for our service delivery.
Oh, definitely. I bet, especially when you get things that come in, it's a little bit easier to have that little space like right there out in town. And
Yeah.
so when people come in, is it like, do you get a lot of people who kind of walk in and just join, or is there more of like a membership application process?
Yeah, so there's a membership application process, and that's mostly to make sure that our staff are prepared to support people. So we want to go through and get to know people on an individual basis and make sure that we understand their preferences and needs, and how we can support them in feeling welcomed, and how we can support them in participating in our programs. And then of course it's just getting to know people
Yeah.
as a person, and taking it from there. But there is a process of getting started and going through an orientation, and just filling out some basic paperwork. And then once people go through that orientation and have that paperwork, then they're a member and can participate at Max Higbee Center when they please.
I love that.
Yeah.
So obviously you guys are very much this big pillar in the community. I feel like there's very few people I talk to that don't know, about Max Higbee, but for those, that might be unfamiliar or maybe new to Bellingham, what do you wish more people knew or understood about, your members, your cause, what do you want people to know?
Oh, that's such a good question. Let's see. Well, I think there's a couple of things that I really want people to understand about the mission of Max Higbee Center and the role that we play in the community. One is the importance of recreation and the importance of friendships. I think that's becoming more apparent in the last couple of years, because we're all more familiar with isolation and what that does and how that feels, and just the really negative effects of isolation. I've been talking about isolation, what that looks like for people with disabilities for years and years. And I think now more than ever, there's this understanding, personal experience with it. And I hope that people continue to bring that awareness to the importance of having opportunities and programs like Max Higbee Center, because isolation is really, really challenging. It's hard to feel lonely and not included in the community. And a lot of folks with developmental disabilities experience just a myriad of barriers that create that sense of isolation, real or perceived isolation. And so breaking down those barriers is incredibly important. And I hope that people to continue to have that awareness around the importance of breaking down barriers that contribute to isolation for different populations.
Yeah, well, because community is such a vital thing, and I feel like we as people talk about how important it is and how impactful it is, and for even a community as big as Bellingham, why is it so important that different social groups, different organizations, people like you and Max Higbee, why is it so important that we create these almost like micro communities amongst the ones that are big like the city?
Yeah, I really like that question. In my mind, a community is it's vibrant and thriving when all of the individuals in that community are welcomed and supported and celebrated. And really, until you welcome every single person in the community, you don't have that sense of like a whole community. So I think there needs to be programs like Max Higbee Center that create these little communities within the broader community, so that there is a welcoming place for us, for people with developmental disabilities, to have some extra support and to be welcomed in the community. And ideally, so it would, I think, be great if Max Higbee Center worked itself out of a job. Until then, Max Higbee Center is playing a really important role of creating a safe and welcoming and supportive environment for our members, and creating bridges in the community for other organizations and for other individuals in our community to learn how to be more welcoming and inclusive. And so that's the role that we're playing now, and that's a really important role for any marginalized population in our community. And these types of programs and efforts, that's what creates that.
And do you have any favorite, any memories or stories that you like to kind of think back on or refer to when people ask you about, why you love your job and why you do what you do?
It's been a joy to be a part of Max Higbee Center. Yeah, I began in the programs, building the relationships with the folks that we serve. And that was just incredibly enriching and wonderful for me. And I think I've learned a lot about why it's important to be welcoming, like why a welcoming space matters. I personally feel so welcomed at Max Higbee Center, and that's something that I really cherish when I walk in the door. I feel welcomed, and having that experience and feeling so accepted for who I am has been just a wonderful experience for me. And so it's a joy to be a part of that and to create that welcoming environment for others, and then also to benefit from it myself. It's definitely a two-way street there. And so that's something that I really just enjoy about my job at Max Higbee Center. And it's something I continue to enjoy even as like the executive director. Even though I'm not in programs, I still get to benefit and experience that, which I'm grateful for.
And so that you guys can continue to do the really amazing, community pillar stuff that you do, how can people support you? What's the best way that they can, help to make sure that the mission of Max Higbee continues on here in town?
The best way to support Max Higbee Center, there's a variety of ways, honestly. One is to make a donation or a monthly donation to contribute to our programs and to our staffing. Another is just to reach out and ask how you can get involved. We typically rely on volunteers every year to help our programs. We haven't had as many volunteers just with restrictions during COVID, but we're hoping to open up our programs, little by little and bring our volunteers back. And then reaching out to us too and just seeking support in how to create a welcoming environment, especially if you're an individual or a business in recreation. It's so valuable when we are able to build partnerships with some of our community partners and they really work with us in creating a welcoming environment in their space so that, our programs can go out and enjoy whatever it is that they have to offer and have that experience where they feel supported and like they are welcomed in that space. So there's lots of ways to get involved and to support the mission at Max Higbee Center.
Well, we definitely covered a lot of really awesome ground today, and I can't tell you how appreciative we are to have had you here, to be able to share the message and share with more people why they should love Max Higbee. So thank you so much for jumping into the studio today and telling us all about your guys' amazing organization.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a joy to be here.
To learn more about Max Higbee Center, the programs that they do, and the amazing members that they work with here in the community, you can go to their website at maxhigbeecenter.org. You can also go there to learn how to get involved as a volunteer and how to make a donation so that they can continue to make their impact right here in Bellingham. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.